All right, welcome back to the Red and Blue Fight Pick Show. We are here today to break down UFC Vegas 106, Burns versus Morales. But first, we're going to recap our picks from UFC 315 and recap the card. So it was a tough week for the Blue and Red Fight Picks. We started in the Bantamweight division as Red Ray was on Brad Katona plus 3.5 against Beksat Almakan. Red Ray, what happened?
Two fighters here had a Katona, and then later we were on a little Charles Radke action where guys who had never been knocked out got knocked out. So I couldn't see that coming. So
yeah, I liked Katona as well, but unfortunately it didn't go well. Speaking of guys we liked that didn't go well, we were on Jung Young Lee at minus 150 against Daniel Santos, who was out for 2 years, was up a weight class, and took this fight on short notice. Looked a little pudgy, and yet he had much better cardio and was ragdolling Jung Young Lee around the cage. Red Ray, anything to add?
I'm pretty much, if I hear a guy that is from Fight Ready at this point, I'm just immediately going to bet on the other guy, because I don't know if they're doing any kind of training over there. Every single time we see someone from Fight Ready come out there,
Fight not ready.
Yeah, they're just absolutely not ready for the fight. So,
yeah, moving up the card, Blue Bart was on Marc-Andre Barriault by decision. Now, Marc-Andre Barriault did win. He looked fantastic. The first man to knock out Bruno Silva in his career, which is why I thought he was going to win by decision. It was the first KO win for Marc-Andre Barriault since 6 fights ago. But, good for Marc-Andre Barriault. Made money on him in other ways. Moving up the card, we had Navajo Sterling against Ivan Ursulan. We didn't give anything out on this fight. I know that I felt it was going to be a more competitive fight than what the line was showing. And it was an awesome fight, one of the best fights of the night. A good test for Sterling. I think he's going to take a lot away from this fight. He was tested, showed he can grapple. Good performance. Almost got the finish at the end. Moving up the card, Blue Bart, again, was on the right side of the winner, but the wrong side of the finish. I was on Modestas Bukauskas by KO. Unfortunately, he did not get the KO. He won by decision, so I just needed to flip-flop Marc-Andre Barriault by KO and Bukauskas by decision, or just give out their money lines next time, because they were pretty good numbers on their money lines. You know what happened? Is I just got a little jealous of Red Ray the week before. He was hitting on these props, and I was like, oh, I want to do that. That'd be fun. No more messing around this week, though. So, another thing I want to talk about this is, there was a lot of crying going on in the MMA community, specifically from Red Ray, about the decision of this fight. Robbery. This was a robbery. He landed more strikes. Blah, blah, blah. Listen, I thought Bukauskas won round 1 and round 3. Was it a very close fight? Yes. Did I feel like he landed the more significant damaging strikes? Yes. Did Cutelaba land way more strikes? Yes. But a lot of those were leg kicks that didn't do any damage. And we're going to get into some more quote unquote robberies later in this card. I won't stand for it anymore. Red Ray, any response?
Bart, what does the F in UFC stand for?
Fighting.
Fighting, yes. Bukauskas does not fight. He just stands around and he throws one strike every 2.5 minutes. He doesn't fight. There's one guy in the cage that fights. Cutelaba was actually attempting to get into a fight, and then Bukauskas just kind of hangs out.
No, he wasn't.
He landed 5 before the last 30 seconds of the round. He landed like 6 strikes in the last 30 seconds. Before that, he had landed less than 10 strikes in a 5-minute round.
He only threw like 18. Now.
It was wild.
Cutelaba landed 18 head strikes in the fight compared to Bukauskas' 37, which is more impactful, damaging strikes than leg kicks. I mean, congrats on landing your leg kicks, but those aren't damaging
only
shots.
someone who says that has never fought before. We know that you have never fought before. Then these are the kind of things where
This
people
isn't
say like
basketball. It's
head
not.
strikes. Head
Oh,
strikes are more important than body strikes, or
no, no,
that there's a
no.
reason why you strike to all levels because they're all impactful.
Were any of them damaging? Did he take any damage from this
Did
fight?
Kudalaba didn't take any damage? He looked
He
fine
took
after
more
the fight.
damaging strikes.
You're just saying that. You don't know that. He
Oh,
looked
I
fine.
watched it. They were more damaging. We'll agree to disagree, but I will stand on business that this was not a robbery. Kutalaba
I
did not
still
do
agree.
enough.
I do agree it was not a robbery. I'm just
Okay.
saying
Okay.
Kudalaba was actually the one fighting. That's all.
Fair. We'll move up the card. Something to celebrate. We were high on Jasmine Jasdavicius. Red Ray had her inside the distance. We had her in the chalk parlay, not a chalk parlay, but we had her in our 3-unit play alongside Natalia Silva. Um, just an absolute dominant performance. I didn't see how Jasdavicius could lose this fight. One on the feet, took her down with ease, threw her on her head, tapped her out. Just absolutely ran right through her. Um, Moving up the card, we had Mike Mallet at home against Charles Radke, and Red Ray was on Charles Radke money line. What happened, Red Ray?
Mal looked good. I'm never upset about losing a bet when the other guy looks better than he had previous. As long as people are improving, I'm just here to watch a good fight. And Mal looked much better than he did against Giles. So it's I can only go by what I've seen previous, and it wasn't what he performed on Saturday.
I did like Mike Mallet. I didn't like him enough to give out a play, but we moved up the card. This was tough. This was tough for the Blue and Red Fight Pick show. We were high on Benoit Saint Denis. Unfortunately, his money line finished at minus 1,500. We gave out his under 1.5 rounds total in the fight at minus 175. And Red Ray, what happened?
I think with 4 seconds past the 1.5 thing, he decided to immediately take him down and go right into an arm triangle and tap him out. And it literally took him 2 seconds to do it, but he didn't start the interaction until it hit the 2.5 mark or the 1.5 mark. So that was
What I will say is that we said this was going to be a squash match, and that's what it was. It was an absolute squash match. He dominated him. He played with his food a little too long. Preplik, to his credit, defended the rear naked choke well enough in the first round. And that's just tough. I mean, we lost by 5 seconds, and I liked BSD by submission. I think and so did Red Ray. I think we should have just went with that instead of the under 1.5. But anyways, moving up the card, the second half of the 3-unit play alongside Jasmine Giastavicius was Natalia Silva. Red Ray was all over it. A dominant performance, 30-27 across the board. I think title shot is next for Natalia Silva. My only fear is that with Valentina winning again, I could see them making her against Zhang Weili, leaving Natalia Silva in a little bit of purgatory. They might make her fight the winner of Macy Barber versus Aaron Blanchfield. But Red Ray, it's your time to shine here.
I mean, she just a masterclass as she always does. I mean, just dominant performance. Never let her touch her. Anytime you heard the announcers, they got all excited. Anytime Grasso got into a little bit of a fisticuff, she was the one getting beat up in all of the exchanges. It was just an unbelievable performance. She might fight Amanda Ferrero next if they give her Zitway Lee. So who knows? I mean, it doesn't matter. She beats everyone in the division, so it's just a matter of time.
It wasn't the most exciting fight, but it was a very clean performance for Natalia Silva, and that's what she needed. Moving up the card, Red Ray did give out plus 3.5 on Amin Zahabi. This was a great fight, and this is another thing I need to touch on. Robbery. Aldo got robbed. This was a robbery. This was not a robbery. This is a very close fight. I thought Zahabi won rounds 2 and 3. He was pushing the pace in round 2. He was moving forward. He got caught early in round 3. He took 2 illegal soccer kicks to the head that the ref didn't do anything
illegal.
about.
He wasn't
down. Then Aldo's looking at the clock with 3 minutes left and just got destroyed in the final 3 minutes. Zahabi won this fight. Um, but if Aldo, there was a world where you could say Aldo maybe won the second round. I didn't see it that way. But if Zahabi would have lost by decision, I don't think it would have been a robbery. But I did think Zahabi won. Red Ray, agree?
I kind of like zoned out. I'll be honest. I remember the first round, and then I was so fascinated with how fast Aldo was looking that I kind of zoned out in the second round. I still think you could maybe give Aldo the third round only because, like, I mean, he did like gas out, but it wasn't like he was taking huge shots at the end, and he did almost knock out Zahabi twice in the third round. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying it was a robbery. I think that round 2 and 3 were probably pretty close rounds. You could have gone either way with it. So
I agree. I don't think it was clearly one sided one way or the other. Moving up the card, I was on Shevchenko by finish only, and again, I was on the right side as a fighter. I wish I just would have been committed enough to giving out her money line. I know Red Ray was leaning towards Manon Fiorot. I mean, it was a very close competitive fight, and this was another one that, some people who lost their bets were crying robbery. Um, I get it, but this was not a robbery. It was a very close fight. It could have went either way. I would not have had an issue with either way. We saw a lot of control from Manon holding Shevchenko against the cage, throwing a lot of knees. Um, but I thought Valentina won. I thought she did enough. She definitely was the only one that ever was close to finishing the fight. Um, so I sleep well at night knowing that I was right in that aspect. Moving on to the main event, I had tied Valentina Shevchenko finish only with Bilal Muhammad money line. Unfortunately, Jack Della Maddalena had a great performance. I had him winning 4 rounds to 1. Again, two of the judges had this 2-2 going into the fifth round. Which Red Ray and I were texting. He felt the same way. It could be 2-2. It could be 3-1. I had it 3-1. I was live betting Jack. After the first 2 rounds, he was minus 140. I thought that was ridiculous because I thought he won the first 2 rounds. I thought Bilal going into the fight was going to have a sense of urgency to be chasing takedowns early. Did not attempt to take down in the first round. He half-heartedly attempted a takedown in the second round. Was able to get a few takedowns in the later rounds, going 3 of 9 for takedowns, but wasn't able to keep Jack Della down. I thought Bilal's game plan would be to try to get him down early, try to push the pace. And he didn't do that. He tried to strike with Jack, which I don't think was a great idea. Not that he was getting outmatched decisively, but he was losing clearly. And congrats to Jack. And I'm not a Jack hater. I'm a fan of Jack. I'm happy for him. I do like Bilal a lot too, but I mostly like him. I like him a lot because everyone hates him. Everyone thinks he's terrible. Nobody likes him. They hate his attitude. They hate his personality. They think he's a boring fighter. He's not a boring fighter. This was an amazing fight. This was a great fight, a great competitive championship fight that came down to the wire, was exciting in the fifth round, and Jack got it done. And I'm looking forward to watching him defend the belt, hopefully in Perth against Islam Makhachev. So with that being said, we are moving on to this week again, UFC Fight Night Vegas 106, Burns versus Morales, and we start in the women's strawweight division as Tisha Pennington at minus 340 takes on Luana Pinheiro at plus 260. I'm going to jump on this one first. I love Tisha Pennington. Red Ray knows I am a Pennington diehard fan, whether it's Tisha or Rocky. But all bias aside, I don't see how she loses this fight. She does have good striking. She's primarily a striker, kickboxer, the tiny tornado. She has power in her hands, not a lot of finishes. You look at her recent history, did get taken down a little bit from Carla Esparza, but was always able to work herself back up. Did more damage, won the fight that way, lost a split decision to Tabitha Ritchie in a fight that I thought she won. I thought she did more damage. She thought she won too. I would almost argue that was a robbery. Lost a split decision to Mackenzie Dern. Could be on a 5, could be on a 6-fight win streak right now had those split decisions gone her way, which one of them definitely should. She's fought everyone in the division: Marina Rodriguez, Zhang Weili, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, um, Angela Hill twice, Paige Van Zandt, Rose Namajunas. She has never had an easy fight in her entire career. I mean, she's 14-7, but she's fought the best of the best her entire career. In this specific matchup, I think that she is a superior striker to Luana Pinheiro, who I think is going to be trying to look for the takedown. I think Tisha's defensive takedown is going to be strong enough that that's not going to happen. She's on a 3-fight losing streak, coming off a loss to Jillian Robertson, a loss to submission by Angela Hill, the only submission win for Angela Hill in her career. Tisha Torres has beaten Angela Hill twice. And then she was TKO'd by Amanda Hebos. She also won a split decision over Michelle Waterson in a fight that I actually thought she lost. And Michelle Waterson was able to get her down. Respectfully, I like Michelle Waterson as a human being. I don't think that she is a great fighter. I know she's now retired. My point is that when you are 29, 30 years old, supposed to be in your fighting prime, fighting an aged Michelle Waterson, who I don't think is that good. I think you should be just decisively winning that fight. And then you lose 3 fights straight after that. I like Tisha Pennington. Big here. She doesn't finish a lot of fights, only 2 finishes in her 14 wins. With that being said, her decision prop is minus 240. Her money line's minus 340. I do even like her minus 3.5 at plus 130. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, not much, Dad. I'm also on the Pennington side. I'm not as confident as you are. The only reason is mainly because, I mean, she's not the greatest on the ground. That's where Luana's wants to get the fight. She's going to try to get the fight to the ground. She's a black belt in judo. Her ground game isn't the greatest. I think she's only a purple belt, though, in BJJ, but um, she'll be better than Pennington is on the ground. But Pennington's takedown defense is pretty solid. I'm sure she's been working with others, with judo practitioners and preparation for this fight. So on the feet, she's going to be the much better striker. She's like you said, not much power, but solid volume, and she looks like she should hit harder than she does because she throws everything so hard and so fast, but no real fight-ending power there. But yeah, she should be able to get this to decision. If you want to play the Luana side, their finish only is plus 120. I think that's the only option here. But I mean, she got finished by Angela Hill, like you said, and Angela Hill also doesn't finish anybody. So maybe Pennington does finish. I mean, she doesn't have the greatest cardio on the planet. Pinheiro, she's gassed twice in the third round, or we saw her gas bad against Ribas in the third round, and then it looked like she was gassing already against Angela Hill. So Pennington, that's her main weapon, is her cardio. So I could see her just pouring it on late. Maybe Pinheiro just quits.
Yeah, and again, the number one criteria is damage, and Pinheiro is not someone who's shown she does a ton of damage within her fights. And yeah, I made my point. I rest my case. Tisha Pennington. Moving up the card, we move to the men's flyweight division as we have Hyun-Sung Park at minus 180 taking on Carlos Hernandez at plus 150. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Before I break this down, we're going to have a little mini PSA that I want to give out.
Good.
There was a multitude of fights this week that I just could not watch because ESPN app or UFC Fight Pass just do not let me watch any fights. Just everything's content not available, or you go on the ESPN app, it's not even there. I've been dealing with the customer service all day today, trying to figure out how to watch these fights. Couldn't watch. I never saw the Carlos Hernandez fight, so it's hard for me to give his last fight against Nember Brablo or whatever his name is. Tried to rewatch the last fight with Hyun-Sung Park, couldn't watch that one. Multiple other fights on this card. Just get some help. I mean, these people need to get under control. I don't know what's going on, but it's out of control. I need to watch the fights. Can't watch them. Can't do tape
Yeah,
study.
let me
It's
piggyback off this
outrageous.
just to say that I saw this week that UFC is in negotiations to re-up their rights deal with ESPN. So it sounds like they're going to be sticking with ESPN, but they're talking about making it 29.99 a month, jumping from ESPN Plus at 11.99 a month. My response to that is I hope they include the pay-per-views if you do subscribe to the 29.99 a month. I'm not sure that's what the format's going to be. They haven't said. If it is not the case where you're not getting the pay-per-views and you're still paying 29.99 a month, you should have access to every single fight in their collection. And this cannot happen. Uh, so sorry, Red Ray, go ahead.
That's okay. Okay, so I'll give you what I could see from the tape study. Hung Sung Park, he fought 2 fights ago on for his road to UFC finals. He does a lot of like empty pressure, which I don't love. He likes to walk forward, but then not throw. And then when the other guy throws, he takes a big step back, so he's out of position. So I don't love what I saw there. But when he does throw, it looks pretty good, but he will get hit. I mean, it seems like he doesn't move his head at all, so he will get hit on the way back. Against it was like Sung Guk Choi. He probably was losing that fight, to be honest. But then in the last round, Sung Juk looked like he gassed and then basically just gave him the rear naked choke. He wasn't even defending it. I don't know what he was doing, but so he ended up getting a submission there. But his positioning wise on the didn't look like his grappling was the most amazing thing on the planet. Um, Last fight he fought Shannon Ross and he was actually getting hit by Shannon Ross a lot. And Shannon Ross we know has one of the worst chins on the planet, and he could not. He didn't even couldn't. He dropped him twice, but they were both to the body. Um, and finished him with a body shot. There wasn't an actual face shot there. So I don't know if his power is really carrying over here on the feet. Hernandez, we've seen he is now, I think this is the third straight Asian that he is fighting. So fourth straight, it looks like. So I don't know if he has a thing against Asians or what's going on with that. So, but either they're just trying to bring the road UFC guys and just burn them through Carlos Hernandez. But um, if he lost to Taira, he lost to Ray Tassura, but both those guys are grapplers, even though he did get knocked out on the feet by Taira, which wasn't a great look. Seems to be a little bit chinny. He got dropped last time against Naim Jargal, but his ground game looks a lot better. He won the grappling against Naim Jargal, and then against Ray Tassura, he was pretty competitive. I mean, he was losing the ground game, but he showed a lot of like in the first 2 rounds until Taysara gassed out and he actually took him down. But first round he was doing a lot of grappling, like good things on the ground with the grappling and staying safe. So he seems to be working on his ground game. I just think he's the higher volume guy on the feet, so I think he probably is the better striker that way. But his chin is the only thing that worries me from just like guaranteeing a victory here. I think if he does win, it's going to be by decision. I think if Park wins, he probably can chin him at some point and win moments more than the um, minutes. But so I'm going to lean towards Carlos Hernandez here by decision, but not uber confident either way.
We are agreed, not feeling super confident either way. I do like Hung Sung Park a little bit more than you. I want to start on the Hernandez side though. 4-3 in the UFC, but has 3 split decision wins. So I mean, he could easily be 1-6. Now he has fought pretty good competition. Again, he did fight Tatsu Tahara, who's very good. We just saw the Ray Tessera against Joshua Van, who was absolutely terrible on the feet and was just desperately trying to get this fight to the ground. Now maybe that was just because Joshua Van is elite on the feet and didn't want any part of those hands. And then yeah, Norman Jargle, he did get dropped by him, but other than that, Norman Jargle, maybe he's just not UFC level. But being 4-3 with 3 split decision wins in the flyweight division against guys outside the top 30 in the flyweight division. And on the other side of Hung Sung Park, who is 2-0, 2 finishes, fights out of Tiger Muay Thai, 9-0, 4 wins by TKO, 4 wins by submission, showing he's well rounded. Also saw that he just got married about 6 weeks ago, which I like that as well. I just like that, we have a married man who's looking to make the next step in his life and settle down. The vibes are just too high for Hung Sung Park to lose this fight to a mid flyweight who could be 1-6 in the UFC. So I'm going to lean Hung Sung Park. I'm going to give Hernandez some credit, though. I think that Park will win by decision at plus 160 is my official pick. Moving up the card, we go to the women's strawweight division as we have Elise Reed at plus 425, taking on Denise Gomes at minus 650. Red Ray, I don't know if you noticed this pattern about Elise Reed, but she wins and loses every other fight in the UFC. Have you noticed this?
I did not see that, no.
Okay, good. She's coming off a win. Okay, prior to that, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Okay, she is 4-5. I'm sorry, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4 in the UFC. Now the opponent she beats, Jessica Penney, 42 years old, not great. Prior to that, lost to Lupi Godinez, my girl, got smoked. Prior to that, she beat Jung Young Fry. Jin Young Fry, 39 years old, not great. Prior to that, lost to Luma Lukinbumi. Prior to that, she beat Melissa Martinez, who's only 27, but not very good. Prior to that, got TKO'd by Sam Hughes. Respectfully, I don't think Sam Hughes is outstanding. I think she's mid. Prior to that, she won a split decision over Corey McKenna, who I also don't think is that good. Prior to that, she got KO'd by a 40-year-old Zajara Eubanks, who's 8-7 in her career. I don't think Elise Reed is very good, and the pattern shows she will lose this fight. On top of that, she is fighting a 25-year-old with power in her hands. 6 wins by KO, TKO, which is very impressive in a women's strawweight division. She is 4 and she is 5-2 so far within the UFC with losses only coming to Luma Lukinbumi and Angela Hill, who I both think are good competition. Coming off of 2 decision wins, respectable competition, has TKO wins over respectable competition. I'm expecting her to win this fight. I don't know if she's going to win by decision or KO. I'm going to lean towards the KO at plus 310, and that is my official pick.
Also on the Gomes side here, I'm not as confident. I think the line is kind of silly if this is going to be a striking affair. I think Elise Reed's a good striker. So I think if Gomes thinks she's going to come in here and just throw hands with her, I think it could be a pretty competitive fight. I think we're going, obviously, Elise Reed, what you've been mentioned, her back and forth, a lot of her losses come to people who can take her down. Loma took her down twice, subbed her. Lupi took her down 5 times, subbed her. Sam Hughes 4 times and elbowed her ground and pound. And Eubanks took her down. Even Corey McKenna took her down 3 times in the split decision loss. So she gets taken down every single fight. I don't think every single fight in the UFC has been taken down. Even Jessica Penney got a takedown on her. So she has no takedown defense, and she's not good on the ground at all. And we've seen Gomes in the last 2 fights. She has a submission attempt, and she was very close against Eduardo Mora 2 fights ago to get in a submission. I think if she wants to look minus 500, I think she takes Reed to the ground, and I think she can sub her. So that's going to be a thought here when we come later. I'm surprised. Don't want to spoil anyone, but when we come to the bets, you might see something special there. But so yeah, I just think if it just stays standing, I think Gomes still is probably the better striker. She probably has a more power of the 2. So I think she can edge a decision. I don't know if she's going to knock out Reed standing. I think Reed's good enough standing that she can be competitive there. So I think I'm on the opposite side of you. I'm on decision or sub here instead of decision or KO, but still Gomes is the rightful winner of this fight.
All right, moving up the card, we move up to the women's bantamweight division as we have Luana Santos at minus 175 with the comeback on Tainara Lisboa at plus 145. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I think it's first off, I think it's ridiculous they put Luana Santos and Luana Pinheiro on the same card because I think I've been confused by those two all week because they fight pretty similar. They're both judo girls and they don't want to really strike at all. So that's been confusing for me. But yeah, so I mean, you got Luana. She's not the greatest striker on the planet. She wants to get the fight to the ground. We saw her last fight against Casey O'Neill. She got absolutely pieced up. She couldn't get the fight to the ground. Her first 3 fights in here, she fought pretty low level girls. Maria Agapova can't. Once she's on the least read level of grappling, she took her down and subbed her. Stephanie Egger is also a judo girl that was pretty much on the feet, but Egger can't strike, so she was able to outpoint her and was probably the better grappler there. And then her first fight, her and Juliana Miller just swung for the hills for the first 3 minutes of the fight and then knocked her out. And we saw Juliana Miller striking. So her striking is better than Juliana Miller and Stephanie Egger. So I don't know what that does for you, but she's fighting Lisboa here. Lisboa's stand up is very, very good. Her hands are super fast. She is obviously a former Muay Thai champion of some sort, but seeing her against Jessa Rose Clark, who's also a good Muay Thai striker, and she was just lighting Rose Clark up on the feet. She was completely busted up by the 3rd round. She ended up choking her out, but I think that Rose Clark was just pretty much giving up at that point. She didn't even put the hooks in or anything. She just kind of was a standing choke from the behind. She faced Ravenna Oliveira last time. She only landed 18 significant strikes, but every time she threw in the first 2 rounds, it was clean. Ravenna was trying to grapple her. That's my one issue here is that she does not necessarily that she's been taken down in each of her fights so far, but she doesn't look lost in the takedown defense. But when someone tries to grapple her, she then instead of separating, she tries to get into the grappling exchanges with them. So my only issue here is that if Santos can get a hold of her, and I think she can stuff the initial takedown, but she just likes to hang out in the clinch, and that's kind of worrisome because I think if Santos does get her down, she could do work on the bottom. But I'm going to lean Lisboa here. I think it probably goes to decision, but if she keeps it standing, there's no reason she can't finish her with strikes because she hits really hard and Santos has no idea how to block a shot. So
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Santos coming off a loss to Casey O'Neill, who I do think Casey O'Neill is like a pretty solid women's fighter. Prior to that, pretty low level competition. I mean, she did KO Juliana Miller, who's gonna be forever in our hearts after that most recent win. She's a judo girl. I do think she's obviously gonna be trying to take this fight to the ground. Here's a couple of concerns for me. Santos is moving up to bantamweight. She wasn't the biggest flyweight. I think she's going to look. I just don't understand it. Why are you moving up a weight class? I didn't see anything about short notice. I don't know if this is a permanent move.
I think she was. I think she was at 135 last fight. I remember she had an issue where she said she was having some kind of medical issue, and then
I've seen this listed at flyweight against Casey O'Neill.
okay. Was Agapova on flyweight also?
Yes.
I know at one point she missed weight too, so I don't know if that was an issue.
Okay, maybe
I think the
okay, so maybe
Agapova
that's
fight she
why.
missed weight.
So she's moving up in the weight class. Now, the thing I don't like about Lisboa is she's been out for 2 years. And I read it was due to a knee injury, which is my concern. You're 34 years old against a 25-year-old judo girl who's going to be trying to take you down. You're coming off a knee injury. You mentioned she's been taken down in her other fights. If she can keep it standing, yeah, I think she would win a kickboxing match. But I'm going to lean Santos for that reason. I think that she can get her down, can control her. I have Santos by decision at plus 125, and that is my official pick. We move up the card into the men's featherweight division as we have Yadier Del Vella at minus 500 with the comeback on Connor Matthes at plus 360. We'll start on the Del Vella side. Looked really good on the Contender Series. Fought an opponent that was tough as nails. I mean, this guy was taking all kinds of shots and damage. He could just not be killed. Never got dropped. Had an incredible chin, but he ate over 125 significant strikes. Took a lot of elbows on the ground. I mean, he was hitting him with everything he had, and he just would not go away. Yadier, though, he's got a really short reach in general. I mean, he only has a 61-inch reach, which is I think a little worrisome in some potential future matchups. Good news about this matchup is that, were you going to chime in?
I think you might have. Are you sure it's 61? I think it's 69.
I was just going off of what ESPN has listed, and they have 61-inch reach listed, and his arms look pretty short on that.
I think it's 69, but
okay,
I've seen it on UFC.
Either way, I'm sorry,
Connor
Matthes. Connor Matthes has been KO'd in 2 straight fights. He is a submission guy. I don't think that his wrestling is going to be strong enough to be able to take down Del Vella and control him and find a submission. I think Del Vella is going to knock him out. I have Del Vella at plus 275, which I think is a great number because I think that's his most likely path to victory. Connor Matthes, I don't think that he is UFC level. I don't think you're going to make it in the UFC when you can't strike. And he's already gotten out grappled by grapplers as well. So when you're not dominant in your specialty, it's probably not going to work out for you too well. With that being said, I like Yadier Del Vella again at knockout at plus 275. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, we're aligned here. Connor Matthes, like you said, we've seen him. I mean, twice on the Contender Series and twice in the UFC. He's getting outstruck by guys like Dennis Bazooka, who's not a good striker. His first fight in the Contender Series, he got absolutely annihilated by Francis Marshall on the ground. Marshall just kept taking him down, and so he's getting beat by people grappling and standing at this point, and not high level guys. So I just don't. I don't think he's UFC ready at all or UFC worthy. Deville, like you said, won by Contender Series by decision, but that 100% should have been a KO in the second round. He landed about 64 straight elbows to this guy's face, and somehow he didn't knock him out. I was impressed. I was more impressed. Besides that, the third round, he was definitely absolutely gassed after that because he tried for the finish, and the other guy tried to turn it on in the third round, and Duvall actually won the third round. He was able to keep his cardio up and his heart up, so he's not a quitter in the least. And I think his gas tank is a lot better than it looked, just because I think he tried for the finish and couldn't get it.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
I think if you're able to come back and win the third round, then you obviously have a good gas tank to be able to push. We just saw Aldo. What happened? He just fell over the ground, and after he tried to get the finish on Zahabi, and couldn't do anything. So, yeah, I think Duvall just gets in the pocket here. If he lands the strikes that he landed on Montero, then he lands on Matthes. Matthes is going to go down. Duvall's also he almost got Montero in at the second round. I think it was the first round of the second round. The bell saved Montero. He had a guillotine in that would have finished if the fight could have continued. He has guillotine wins in the on the regional scene. And so he will pull guillotine. So if Connor tries to get a takedown early, I could see him trying to wrap up a guillotine and submitting him there. So I just think he can finish him either way he wants, but I think it's going to be inside the distance.
All right. We are moving up the card. We are in the men's lightweight division as we have Jared Gordon at minus 120 taking on Thiago Moises At even money, Red Ray, how do you have it?
Two veterans here. Gordon, obviously, uh, coming off the loss to Nazareth, but looked pretty good in there. I mean, Hasparas is a good striker, and Gordon's not necessarily known to be like a top tier striker, and he stood with him for 3 rounds. And honestly, most people think that Gordon probably won that decision. I think if it wasn't, I think that was in Canada. So I think he has perhaps kind of get a hometown decision there. But he looked good there. His fight before that, he KO'd Mark Matthes in the first round. Fight before that, he fought King Green, and he was lighting King Green up on the feet before he got caught with a flying headbutt. Um, and then the fight before that was against Paddy Pimblett, and I I'm one of the few that think Paddy actually did win the fight, but um, it wasn't like a landslide. So, and we've seen what Paddy looks like now. He's not many. He's about a fight away from the top 5 in the division. So, and most people think Gordon did win that fight. So he should technically be on a 5-fight winning streak at this point. And he's not. I see no drop off in his skills at any point. He's fighting strikers. He's fighting grapplers. Not seeing anything. Nobody's really beating him in any way. So we've seen Thiago Moises. His last fight was against Trey Ogden. For being a guy that's a high level grappler, he wanted nothing to do with Ogden's ground game, which is kind of worrisome. I don't know if it is confidence in his ground game is if he doesn't think he can dominate Trey Ogden on the ground. He just tried to stand at range for the 3 rounds, and we know Ogden's not a great striker. He was able to outpoint him, but wasn't couldn't have been less impressive with the fight, to be honest. Fight before that, he got pretty dominated by Ludwig Klein. He got dropped twice. He got taken down, controlled. 4 fights ago, he got destroyed by Benoit Saint Denis. So hasn't had a real good win. I guess the Mel Costa win was decent, but Melk was up a weight class. So I don't know. He hasn't really looked good in a long time. Anytime he takes any kind of step up in competition, he gets finished. I think Jared Gordon is up on the level of like a Ludwig Klein. So I don't know. I don't think he's going to be able to get takedowns here. If they're going to stand, I think Gordon's a much better striker. I mean, Moises, I'm trying to look, hasn't really got any takedowns. He got two takedowns against Mitch Ramirez, who's not a UFC fighter. One against Saint Denis. Saint Denis got right back up, and then of course the 4 against Costa. But yes, I don't know. I mean, he's just not. He only ever. I think he's 45% takedown efficiency, so not a great takedown guy. And we've seen Gordon against high level grapplers like Grant Dawson. He did get subbed in the 3rd round and got taken down a lot, but he was pretty defensively sound the first 2 rounds. He just kind of gassed out in the 3rd round. So I think he could stay safe even if Moises gets him down early. But I think he's just going to keep the fight standing and win a striking affair.
Yeah, overall we're pretty aligned here. Again, Jared Gordon, I think he's a smart guy. I think he's got a high fight IQ. The hack press fight was very close. It was a split decision. It would not have been a robbery had it gone to Jared Gordon. But we saw him attempting takedowns. Just didn't work out for him. Had the great win against Madsen, like you mentioned. Yeah, it was the headbutt against King Green was ridiculous. I did think he beat Paddy Pimblett. This guy's good. I mean, I think he's a little underrated. I mean, honestly, I think that he should be higher up on this card in general. I think he's an exciting fighter. I think he's got tremendous hands. I think Thiago Moises is a pretty well known name at this point in the UFC. He's had big fights. He's fought Benil Dariush. He's fought King Green. He's fought Islam Makhachev. He's fought Joel Alvarez. He's fought BSD. I mean, he's been in the UFC since 2018. He's not a pushover by any means, but like he pointed out, he is primarily a grappler, of course. He's looking for submissions. He's looking to take you down. Doesn't really do any damage, though. He does not have great stand up. I talk about it a lot, but what's the number one criteria for judges is damage. And I'll use the example of that Dawson fight because I think that's a similar style fight for Jared Cannonier. I'm sorry, Jared Cannonier. Gordon here, where Thiago Moises is going to be trying to take him down and submit him. We saw Gordon doing more damage still, and could have won a decision had he not gassed towards the end. We just saw Moises against Trey Ogden, and I know that Red Ray and I were on Thiago Moises in this matchup, and it was just so stressful. I mean, he did win. He lost round one, and then he won round one, two, and three by just pure control because nobody was doing any damage. I want to bet on the guy who I think has good takedown defense, good great hands against a guy who is low volume striking, doesn't do a lot of damage, and it doesn't run through his opponents, and is not good at overcoming adversity whenever he's put in difficult situations within fights. Yeah, I like Gordon a lot here. Again, mostly just because I think he's going to have good takedown defense and he's going to hit Moises. I wrote down his knockout is plus 800. I think that's very live in this fight. It might not be a clean KO knockout, but I think he could. I think he could TKO him. So I like Gordon on the money line here. And if I have to make a pick, I will say Gordon by KO plus 800. Moving up the card, we keep it in the men's lightweight division. Ironically, as we have Gabe Green at plus 195, taking on the newcomer Matthes Camilo at minus 240. Start on the Gabe Green side here. I know Red Ray and I were talking a lot this week. He's had some lingering health issues and injuries in his career. He had a heart issue where he had a bruised heart from training. More recently, he's been out for 2 years dealing with injuries still. And prior to that, he was a welterweight. I watched an interview. He was talking about he never was a huge welterweight. He was always kind of just only cutting a few pounds, like maybe 5 pounds, compared to, some big welterweights that maybe walk around at closer to almost 200 pounds. And finally made the decision to move down to lightweight to, try to have a little bit more of not an advantage, but more of a fair opportunity. He obviously wasn't the biggest welterweight in the world, and he was fighting some big welterweights. Fought Ian Gary, fought D-Rod, and, most recently in his last fight, which was just over 2 years ago, he got knocked out by Brian Battle. He came in like a Tasmanian devil, came in incredibly reckless, tried to push the pace, tried to just start swinging against Battle and just got flatlined. He said, while he still is a brawler and loves to mix it up, loves to fight, he is going to try to be a little bit more patient in this fight. He said maybe after 2 minutes, then maybe start getting a little more crazy. But on the other side, we have Matthes Camilo, UFC debut, an extreme couture guy. Hasn't fought in the UFC yet, but did fight on Dana White looking for a fight. He actually beat the guy who asked Dana to give him a chance. It's kind of a viral moment. At a live Q&A, he asked Dana for a chance, said he was 8-0. And then this was his chance, and Camilo beat him. Camilo said it was the most exciting fight because the opponent was just trying to wrestle him a lot, didn't really get to show off his striking. I was reading a lot of good things about this guy in the regional scene, about how much of a highly touted prospect he is. And he's a physical specimen. He was fighting at featherweight, but has moved up to lightweight. He is a thick young guy. And I think that may have been taken the wrong way, but I just think that the mass on this guy is I'm just someone who appreciates good physiques. Okay, I mean, I'm sorry, and I think training with Eric Nixick, training at Extreme Couture, chasing his dreams. He's 24 years old. He's finally getting a shot in the UFC against a guy who's had lingering health and injury issues, who's moving down in weight. Um, hopefully he doesn't have any issues even making the weight. But I'm gonna lean Camilo here. Um, I have him by decision at plus 215, and that is my official pick. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Yeah, it's hard to know what you're going to get from Gabe Green with it. I mean, he's been off for, like you said, he hasn't fought in 3 years. Now dropping down to 155. He's a good striker offensively, but was getting dropped left and right at 170. And maybe it was because he was facing bigger guys, but he didn't look much smaller than the other guys. Like I watched the fight against Lioness, and he was pretty much the same size as Lioness. He's 5'10". That's not a small welterweight. Um, and now he's going to be cutting the extra 15 pounds, so he'll be a little bit more dehydrated. Will his chin be any better? I'm not sure. So that's going to be a concern. I don't think his ground game is very impressive. I saw him getting taken down by Lioness and was held down there. And Lioness doesn't really, he's just a pure striker. So that's kind of worrisome. Camilo, I was pretty impressed with what I saw from him. I watched that fight against, I think it's Nabatov, the guy in the Russian scene. He reminded me a lot of Christian Rodriguez when I watched him there. It looked like he kind of like not in any rush to do anything, no real urgency. Was just kind of lighten Nabatov up on the feet, and then Nabatov would shoot for a takedown, and he'd kind of just clinch him up a little bit. He wasn't like trying to rush to get out of there or anything, but he was just real nice in control. But then I watched the previous fight before that against Soho, and didn't see that as much. He was much faster and much more aggressive in that fight. So I don't know. So it seems like he can fight different styles depending on who he's fighting. But against Nabatov, I really liked how he has these leg kicks where he kind of tries to uses it as a sweep almost. I mean, he was lighting Nabatov's leg up. He dropped him a couple of times with just leg kicks, but he sweeps it, so he brings his leg all the way through and kind of can drop him via leg kicks, which is kind of interesting. Against Soho, he dropped him every single round. The third round, especially, I thought he was going to finish the fight. Soho kept getting knocked out and then would wake up right when he got to the ground. So my initial worry was he was getting these finishes at 145, and his last two fights at 155, he hasn't gotten any finishes, but he's dropped both the guys he's fighting. So his power is carrying to 155. And I mean, maybe we'll see when they get to weigh-ins that Gabe Green maybe is just ginormous compared to him. But I feel like if they're the same size, which they should be,
No,
I
he's
mean,
thick. Don't worry.
Green's 5'10" and he's 5'9", so I don't assume that they're going to be a massive size difference here. So I think Camilo can get this done via KO here. Green's chin is the same as it was, so he hits hard enough to finish him. So that's my call here.
Okay, we're going to drop down a division, but we're going to move up the card as we have a blue and red favorite here, kind of, in Julian Erosa at plus 145, with the comeback on a blue and red hater, kind of, in Mel Costa. Mel Costa. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I mean, this is a real milestone fight because this is our first multiple breakdown guys, and they're fighting each other. So it's a very exciting time. So he broke down Erosa a couple of weeks ago when he fought Darren Elkins. We were pretty high on Erosa there, even though it was against a guy that we like, and Darren Elkins, and he steamrolled him. So my breakdown there is pretty much the same. Nothing really changed there. Erosa, good striker. He's a dangerous submission artist. If he had a chin of whatsoever, he would be he'd probably be a top 10 fighter in the division, but unfortunately he gets touched a lot of times in the chin about anybody that can strike with any kind of power, and he gets KO'd. So he's going against Costa here, another guy we broke down against Christian Rodriguez, another fight I couldn't rewatch because ESPN and the UFC Fight Pass hate me, but so I didn't get to see that one live, but so I'm just going off of what I heard, but it seemed like Rodriguez was trying to take him down, was unable, almost got the submission on the first round, but Costa was able to keep it on the feet and maybe outpoint him there. So we've seen Costa in other fights. I don't think he's overly dangerous. He has a couple of finishes in the UFC, but He's got the sub on Nerd and Beak. We saw, but Nerd and Beak had gassed at that point. He had gotten he had been taken down 4 times at that time, and Nerd and Beak was about death gas mid second round. And then we obviously know about the Andre Feely cell job that when his last 2 fights ago. So before that, he had gotten KO'd by Steve Garcia. We talked about just the submission loss to Moises and the decision over Austin Lingo, who's not a UFC fighter. So I'm not overly impressed with anything that Costa does. I think I think he's got good kicks. His ground game seems to be okay against guys that don't have great ground games. Against guys that are good good grapplers, he seems to not have as much success. So I don't know. I don't know if so in this fight, I mean, it really just comes down to whether I think he can KO Erosa or not. And I don't know if he does because I don't see the hands. Erosa can get KO'd by kicks, and Costa does have hard kicks. So I'm gonna go Erosa here. I just think he's a much better. If this is just a pure skill fight, I think he's the much better fighter. So I'm gonna lean him, and I'm gonna say he gets the finish. Erosa usually finishes all of his fights, and if not, I think Costa finishes him. So I do like the under 2.5. It's minus 155, and fight doesn't go the distance is minus 190. You can play that straight up or a parlay piece. So those are my plays here. But yeah, I'll lean towards Erosa by finish.
Yeah. Overall, pretty aligned here. Again, what is Erosa's kryptonite? Guys with big power that can TKO or knock him out. I don't think that's what Mel Costa is. Erosa, he's good, man. I feel like he's a little underrated. I think I used to underrate him a lot too, but when you actually watch him fight, he's a good fighter. And he's only lost to guys that have caught him, and even some of the shots that he got caught with weren't the most devastating shots. But more recently, 3 straight first round finishes. He's 10-6 in the UFC overall, 9-3 over his last 12. I think he's looked great, and I'm still not sold on Mel Costa. A reason that we really liked C-Rod in that matchup was because I thought he was going to be the superior striker, and C-Rod was trying to out-grapple him, which I didn't like. We know Juicy J, Julian Erosa, has an incredible cardio. He's never going to stop. And Costa's cardio has looked fine, but I don't think he's going to be able to out-grapple and outwork Erosa. I think Erosa is a better striker. I think he could knock out Costa. I like Erosa. I like Erosa money line here. I like that it's plus 145. I like that we're getting plus money on it. Costa, yeah, I mean, he beat C-Rod because he was able to out-grapple him, a smaller, a shorter guy. I think that Erosa is an outstanding grappler. He's 14-0 by submission with a huge frame. I think that's something that Costa hasn't had to deal with. When you look at Andre Feely, not nearly the level of grappler that Erosa is, and we know that Feely was paid off to throw that fight anyways. And then prior to that, Nordin is a shorter guy as well. Got KO'd by Steve Garcia. You mentioned Lingo's not UFC level. I'm seeing a lot of people on Mel Costa in this fight, and I just don't see it. I'm on Erosa. I like the money line at plus 145. If I mean, and I always do. I'm the way I think he's gonna win is I do see it being decision. Costa has shown that he's pretty durable. I don't think Erosa has the power that Steve Garcia does, and I don't think he is. I don't think his game plan is going to be taking him down. So anyway, Erosa money line, Erosa by decision at plus 500. That is the official pick. We move up the card to the men's middleweight division. as we have Dustin Stoltzfus at plus 250 with the comeback on Nursultan Ruziboev. Right, Red Ray? I'm going to start on the winning side here on Dustin Stoltzfus. I love this number. We're getting plus 250 on Stoltzfus. I think that people are thinking he's a little chinny, but when you actually go back and look at the fights he was KO'd in, he has a TKO loss to Abus Magomedov that lasted 19 seconds. He got front kicked in the face, but ate it like a champ. I think he was a little bit just kind of stunned from it. I wouldn't say rocked. I think just like, well, I just got kicked in the face. He got ambushed by Abus and took some couple of big shots that dropped him. Early stoppage? Maybe a little early. Either way, he came back. He submitted Soriano, and then he was starting to gas already in the first round against Bruno Ferreira, but he took a vicious spinning elbow that he actually ate, and I'll argue was an early stoppage.
I think he landed 2 spinning elbows to him, and
yeah,
the second one was finally
either
the one.
way. My
They're both
point
flush.
is that he has a good chin. Okay, I think people are saying he's chinny. I don't think so. I think he's a tough, strong, physical specimen with a nice physique fighting Ruziboev on the other side of this. So far within the UFC, he is 3-1. He actually KO'd Ferreira. I remember he was a pretty big underdog in that fight. KO'd Dumas. We're just gonna say it. Dumas, dumbass. I mean, the guy is just a loser in life. Arrested again. Not UFC level. We were against him in his last fight big time. But anyway, beat Dumas. Not impressive to me. And got dominated by Buckley, who's it was a big welterweight, but 4-4 on takedowns, 5.5 minutes of control, was losing on the feet as well. And then he came back and beat Eric Makano, who's not UFC level, and finished him. I think that Stoltzfus is a true middleweight. We've seen Ruziboev go back and forth. I know he's 6'5", but he's pretty skinny. I think Stoltzfus can take him down and control him. Ruziboev's only been submitted once. It was a very long time ago. I think Stoltzfus could submit him. I think he could find the takedowns and grind out a decision. My official pick is going to be submission at plus 750. But I like his money line at plus 250. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I don't really like either of these guys, I'll be honest. But I think Ruziboev is pretty overrated. I know everyone thinks he's some top-notch level guy. I think his striking is super basic for a guy who, 37 wins or something like that. He's got a ridiculous record, 37 fights. He throws 2 strikes. He throws a 1 and a 2, and that's it. Just right down the pipe. He doesn't throw hooks. He doesn't throw anything else. Sometimes maybe he throws an uppercut, but like you saw against Dumas, it was, I think, the uppercut was working against Dumas, but then he just spams it. He just throws it over and over and over. So he has no variation in his strikes. You can pretty much know exactly what strikes he's going to throw after the first 5 seconds of the fight. He does seem to have enormous power, though. It seems like I mentioned a couple weeks ago when Matthes fought, guys just have different reactions when he gets hit by him. So it seems like when he touches people, they just like fall over. I mean, he landed, that was like only his, he didn't land many strikes against Makano yet. I mean, he landed 20 strikes total, knocked him down twice, but he only landed 12 strikes against Dumas, dropped him, and then the 6 against Ferreira. So, yeah, I don't think that he's a welterweight like you do, or I think he cuts a lot of weight to get down to 185. I think that was the issue against Buckley, is that he cut too much weight and was kind of out of power there. I still think Buckley probably beats him at 185, but that's just a skill level thing. But I don't think he would. Maybe it looked as bad. I know in the regional scene he looked much more of a grappler against lower level competition. But I think Stoltzfus is going to have a little bit of an issue taking him down just because he's so long. And if he does, I think he could control him. I do think Stoltzfus is a strong wrestler. My worries is that, can he do that for 2 full rounds. He doesn't have the greatest cardio. A lot of his losses previous to those last 2 KOs were late sub finishes, and that's usually because he runs out of gas late in the fight against Mearshart was 3rd round sub, and Rodolfo Vieira was 3rd round sub. So I don't know if Ruziboev has the greatest cardio in the world, but if Stoltzfus tries to stand with him and bang, I do think that Ruziboev was going to drop him, finish him that way with a KO. Just because, while I do think Stoltzfus hits pretty hard, I think he's wild, and Ruziboev does throw 1-2s right down the pipe. So if Stoltzfus tries to like throw a combination of some sort, I think he's going to be open for that kind for just a technical 1-2 down the pipe. And then, like I said, I think anything that seems like Ruziboev has just power that a lot of people don't have. So, but I could see either guy finishing early on. To be honest, if Stoltzfus does get him down and Ruziboev looks as terrible as he did against Buckley, then I mean, Stoltzfus does have great ground and pound. Maybe he does get a finish, but I like the under 1.5 here. It's -135. If you want to play Ruziboev to get his number down a little bit, by KO is -140. Those are my 2 plays.
Well, that would be foolish because I just mentioned that Stoltzfus has a granite chin. Yeah, and I didn't even point out that he looked great in his last fight against Marc-Andre Barrio, who we just saw nearly kill a man this past weekend. Destroyed Barrio in the 1st round. In all seriousness, I do think that he is going to be the bigger, stronger guy, be able to control him. Show improved stand-up as well, and I think that his overrated chinniness is not going to be an issue. I do worry more about the cardio though, but we haven't seen Ruziboev in deep waters against legit guys yet, so I like Stoltzfus. Moving up the card, we are going into the men's lightweight division as we have Super Sadiq Yusuff at +115 taking on Marian Santos at -135. Red Ray, how do you have it?
This is going to be another fight similar to the Gabe Green fight where you got Sadiq. He hasn't fought in a while. I don't know. And now he's going up a weight class to 155. Don't know why either of these guys are going up a weight class because they're both featherweights. So that should be interesting to see how they look. But Sadiq it's a real drop down in competition for him. And the fact that he's a underdog here is interesting. I mean, his last fight was against Diego Lopez. I think he was pretty much even money there. And Lopez just fought for the title. And now he's fighting Marian Santos, who probably lost to Francis Marshall's last fight, but got a pretty lucky decision. So it's an interesting fight. But, I mean, as far as skills, Sadiq's he's a great striker. He does have a decent ground game. We saw him. He does have like a solid top game. I don't know if his off the back is the greatest, but I'm just worries right now is his chin because he got rocked by Edson Barbosa 2 fights ago pretty badly. And then obviously got KO'd immediately by Diego Lopez last fight out. So that's my one worry is now I mean, if he was facing a bigger guy, it might be even more of a worry since he's going to the 155. But I don't know if he's not the hugest. He's only 5'9", so I don't think he cuts the most amount of weight to get down to 145 either. So I don't think that would be like maybe he has a better chin now that he's going up a weight class type of thing. Then you got Marian Santos. I didn't think he looked very good on the Ultimate Fighter, to be honest. But he looked a lot better against Con Offley in the finale. But we've also seen Con Offley since, and he's not the greatest fighter. He looked a lot better in the house than he did afterwards. But he pieced him apart and then KO'd him in the second. He's showing a pretty improved takedown defense. Con couldn't get him down. That's his game plan. But then he got taken out 3 times by Francis Marshall. Felt like he got easily lost 2 rounds in that fight. Didn't really get his stand-up going. He only landed 58 significant strikes over 3 rounds. So I don't really have a good play here because it's just hard for me to know what I'm going to get from Yusuff. I think finish only, though, if you want to play the Santos side, it's -145. That seems like I think he's the only one that can get a finish here. If Yusuff's chin's still a worry, then Santos definitely hits hard enough to finish him. He is only 24. maybe he's getting better. Maybe it was just first fight in front of it was on pay-per-view. Maybe the first fight in front of a crowd that Santos was kind of like worrisome about, but he's back in the apex here, so I'll lean Santos, but no confidence either way.
Yeah, I'm a lot more confident in Yusuff than you are. I like him a lot in this fight. I think this is a huge step down in competition for him. Yes, he's coming off the TKO loss just under a year ago to Diego Lopez. We know how good Diego Lopez is, and we know how big he is. He's 5'11". Had a competitive fight against the greatest featherweight of all time. Prior to that, he went 5 rounds with Barbosa. Yes, he had a couple of moments where he didn't look great. Long-term cardio didn't look great. This is only a 3-round fight. You mentioned he's coming up from featherweight to lightweight. He said that this is most likely a permanent move. You know, he's been dealing with injuries. That's why he's only fought twice over the past 3 years, only once a year for the past couple of years. And he said he draws a lot of inspiration from Kamaru Usman, who, you know, people give him a hard time about his knees. We know Usman's a guy who's always been dealing with injuries, but still always finds a way to win and become champion. And Sadiq said he's dealing with some disc issues in his back that are still an issue, but not enough that it's going to hold him back from being able to fight another man for 15 minutes. And I think that moving up in lightweight is going to help with the quote unquote chinniness aspect. Again, I think that's a little bit blown out of proportion as well. I mean, he was blitzed by Lopez, and he didn't get did not get put out cold by Lopez. And I think that's important. This guy is 7-3 in the UFC. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, but it is to elite competition in Diego Lopez. And I think that a 5'11", long-time outstanding kickboxer like Barbosa is nothing to be ashamed of. And on the other side, Marion Santos, this guy is still very young. You mentioned he didn't look great on The Ultimate Fighter. He did KO a guy to win the show that I don't think is UFC level. I heard a lot of people calling robbery in his last fight with Francis Marshall. I'll hear you out on that robbery call. I did think that Marshall won that fight. I thought he was doing enough with the grappling. We saw him get him down 3 times, had decent control, and Yusuff can grapple. He can wrestle too. He's primarily a striker. He should be a little bit bigger of the guy here, although I did hear Marion Santos say that he cuts 40 pounds to make featherweight. So he's normally walking around at 185. And there's no way he can do that long term. I mean, maybe at 24 years old, but when you start getting a little bit older, we see it with everybody from, you know, Conor McGregor to Islam Makhachev, Ilia Topuria to Sadiq Yusuff. I mean, that's not sustainable to be dropping 40 pounds to make featherweight. And he did get the big knockout in the win. But prior to that, he has his last 3 wins are by decision. Did get TKO'd by Dan Argueta. I don't think that Santos is a world-class cardio guy. I think that Yusuff, he said he sees some holes in this fight. I think he's going to have better overall cardio, more energy, not having to cut as much weight. He said he wants to fight more. He wants to be able to take more fights on short notice. He doesn't want to be fighting once a year. And again, I think this is just a huge step down. I think that people are just underrating Yusuff because he's only fought twice in the past 3 years and he lost both those fights to elite competition. I think this is going to be a great comeback fight for Yusuff, get him back on track. I like him a lot in this spot. I just want to take his money line at plus 115. His decision only, you mentioned you like Santos by finish only. Yusuff's decision only is minus 105. I do think that's his most likely path to victory. So if instead of playing decision at plus 200, you wanted to play decision only at minus 105, I would recommend that. Moving up the card, we go to the men's light heavyweight division, and I'm already giddy to talk about this as we have Rodolfo Bellato at minus 600 with the comeback on Paul Craig at plus 400. I'll start on the Paul Craig side here. I think Paul Craig is absolutely terrible. He's one of my least favorite fighters in the UFC. Mostly because, he comes out with the war paint on for the weigh-ins, and he gets in your face and he thinks he's this scary tough guy. I mean, he'd kill me in 10 seconds, but when it comes to fighting other professional fighters in the UFC, he wants nothing to do with actually fighting them. He wants to pull guard and try to submit you. He is 1-5 over his last 6, with the only win coming over Andre Muniz, who has been exposed as a bit of a fraud, who has a real cardio issue. But he has fought really good guys, to be fair. He got outstruck by Bo Nickel. I still think Bo Nickel is going to be good long term, but we just saw him really struggle in his last fight. Got finished by Kyle Borrello and Brendan Allen, Johnny Walker, Volkan Ozdemir. He is fighting high level guys in every fight. To be fair, I still think I think he sucks. I try not to be, that harsh. But he's 37 years old. He is a terrible striker. He doesn't like to get hit. He's been finished by TKO 5 times. And now he's fighting a massive 205er. Paul Craig also coming back from middleweight. He was cutting the weight, doesn't want to cut the weight anymore. I get it. But now you're fighting a giant at 205 who trains with Team Nogueira, is coming off of a draw to Jimmy Crute in a fight that he should have won. I mean, he won. He just had a really bad first round, nearly got finished, got 10-8'd, and then he won the next 2 rounds. He TKO'd Eor Pitorio, who isn't great. He TKO'd another guy in the Contender Series who isn't great. Now, his only kryptonite is Vitor Petrino, okay? He can't beat Vitor Petrino. But what does Vitor Petrino have? He has power in his hands. He can knock people out. Paul Craig, I don't think he's ever knocked anybody out on the feet. I don't think Paul Craig is going to be able to take him down and get on top of him and find some sort of submission. I think that Bellato is going to knock his head off. I like Bellato a lot by KO at I see it now at minus 185, and that is the official play. Bellato by KO. Second stretcher, back-to-back weeks. Red Ray, how do you have it?
I'll start off. I'll be nice. Bellato is a good striker. He's got good hands. He holds his hands, though, out to the side and doesn't move his head at all. So he gets just absolutely lit up on the feet every time. We've seen him now the last 2 fights.
But who's he fighting?
Ihor Pateria. I mean, literally one of the worst fighters in the division. Jimmy Crute, one of the worst strikers in the division. And he got absolutely destroyed by Jimmy Crute. He got destroyed. He got taken down by Jimmy Crute and lit up on the ground and lit up on the feet. And thankfully for him, Jimmy Crute absolutely gassed out, or else he would have easily lost that fight. Pateria dropped him multiple times. He likes to get into the clinch. The reason he got dropped by Pateria, he kept getting Pateria up against the cage, and then he starts throwing combinations, but he just stands there inches from the guy while he's throwing. So the guy just any strike that guy throws back is going to be clean right in his head because his head doesn't move. So his chin is just not great. Like you said, Vitor Petrino, does he have power? I don't know. He got beat up by Anthony Smith 2 fights ago on the feet, and then he had to shoot a takedown because he was getting beat up by Anthony Smith. I mean, I don't know if I think he looks like he has power, but I don't know if he really does. It's just, and then we don't even know Bellato's cardio. I can't tell if it's not good or if it's good. But he gets beaten up so badly in the first round that I can't tell if his cardio is bad because he's getting beaten up or if it's just not great. So on the Paul Craig side, yes, is he offensively challenged? 100%. He has no weapons offensively. His rear kick is okay, I guess. I don't know, to the body, it's okay. I watched the Muniz fight, and before the fight, when Bruce Buffer's announced his name, he did the thing where he walks over and he was literally 2 feet from Muniz. It's just so wild that he
Oh my god, I hate him
acts
so
that way,
much.
and then he gets in the fight and he's in a karate stance and he's just like just trying to throw rear kicks. But um, he did. It looked like he had good takedowns against Muniz. He took him down twice. I can't tell if that's because Muniz just has no takedown defense or if he at times can offensively grapple. The one positive here, like you said, he's going up to 205. When Craig was at 105, he was vegan or vegetarian. He's no longer. He is back to eating meat, so maybe he's getting that Scottish meat power back, and maybe we throw some offensive takedowns in here because I think if he tries to take Bellato down, I think he could get him down. I don't think Bellato's some lights out wrestler, and if Craig gets on top, it's going to be an issue. Bellato's ground game, I think he is a black belt, but he's one of the black belts where I see him on the ground and I don't understand how he's a black belt. Against Jimmy Crute, he wasn't even getting to his side to try to get up. He was just laying on his back, letting Crute just absolutely annihilate him from the top. So, um, I mean, if Craig gets on we know Craig's a good grappler. If he gets on top against Muniz, he just throws elbows. I don't think Bellato is a quitter per se, but I could just see Bellato get beat up on the ground if it's a ground and pound situation. I am gonna. I say all this, but I'm going to say Craig wins, or I mean Bellato wins by KO. But at minus 500, it's an absolute wild bet. This guy is not good. He's not a good fighter. Um, he just has no real UFC skills. And Paul Craig has only fought top tier talent. And then any time he fights anybody, last time he fought somebody that was um, not a top tier fighter in the UFC was maybe, I think, 6 years ago, and he won that fight easily. We've also seen Bellato has shot at least one takedown every single fight. So who knows if he just thinks he gets Craig hurt and then maybe he just goes to the ground with Craig. And then we've seen Craig triangle lesser opponents before. So, uh, so my play here is the minus 1.5. It's minus 135 because I think both these guys can get finished. But my pick is going to be Bellato with no faith.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to move on now to the main event of UFC Vegas 106. Gilbert Burns plus 500 with the comeback on Michael Morales at minus 850 here in the welterweight main event. Red Ray, how do you have it?
Gilbert Burns coming off the finish loss to JDM his last fight out. He actually was up 2-0. So, which I don't know if he really won the first round. In my eyes, it was 1-1, but he got finished by a knee and kind of gassed out late in the fight. Oh, that was 2 fights ago. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that he fought Sean Brady last fight and got dominated for 5 rounds. But his last 3 losses are to basically the top 3 guys in the division. His last 4 losses are top 3 guys in this division and then number 1 contender at 185. So it's only losing to top guys. When he has any kind of drop down in opposition, he wins. He fought Masvidal and Magny. He finished pretty easily. I just think this is going to be a tough matchup for him. Morales, seeing him, this is going to be a step up in competition for him. His last fight was against Neil Magny, who I think he's been washed for years now. But his best win besides that was probably his unanimous decision win over Jake Matthews. He's only besides the Magny fight, he has 2 other finishes against low-level guys, Adam Fugit and Trevin Giles. I think he's good everywhere. He's obviously he's an Ecuadorian. I think he was a Olympic wrestler, national wrestler for them. He's a great striker. I don't know if he has the greatest power in the world. Saw against Max Griffin, it was 1-1 going in the 3rd round. He won the 3rd round, but I think he's a minute winner, but not so much a moment winner. I really wanted to be on Burns here because I just think we haven't seen Burns get dominated. Like he's a minus, what is he, a plus 500, and Morales is a minus 800. We haven't seen Burns get dominated by anybody but the top of the division. So the Morales, even though I think he's good, is not the top of the division at this point. So it's hard for me to think that he gets just absolutely annihilated. But at the same time, I just don't know how Burns wins minutes. He would just have to volume on the feet, and because I don't think he's going to get Morales down. He's got to try to turn it into a fight like how he fought against Chimaev, where he just tries to get into a real like dirty, sloppy fight with Morales. But Morales is usually pretty good at keeping his range and making it a real technical fight. So I'm going to lean Morales here. I think the fight goes long. The over 3.5 is -110. I don't hate that. I think reaches the third round as a parlay piece. I think it's -200. I did see earlier in the day today Morales and a same game parlay Morales and over 1.5 was -130. It's moved to -190 now, but even that I think is a good number because I don't think Morales finishes him early. But I'll lean Morales by either a late finish or decision here.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I agree with everything you said. I want to cheer for Burns. I don't like any of the numbers on Morales. I do think the line is a little bit wide for a guy who hasn't fought the level of competition that Burns is. Now, obviously, Burns is 38 years old. He's coming off of 3 losses to elite competition and Sean Brady, JDM in a fight that he nearly won, and Bilal Muhammad in a fight that he was injured the entire fight. He didn't seem, he didn't blow me away with what he had to say at the press conference today. He seemed very nonchalant, very at peace with his career. He's only got a couple left. He understands why Morales is the favorite. I mean, he did say he thinks he's going to win, but I heard the same thing from Anthony Smith a few weeks ago, and that didn't go that well. Oftentimes we've seen it so many times in the UFC. You have a guy with a big name who's been around for a long time. He's fought for the title, and they put him up against a young up and comer, and it usually doesn't go well. I do think that Burns has a chance. I think that he needs to fight like a crazy person, like he did against Hamzat, like he pointed out. I think he needs to try to KO him. Nearly did KO Hamzat. I mean, he dropped him a couple times, did he not? Let me take a look here. He dropped him. I guess he didn't technically drop him at all, but I do remember Hamzat dropped to his knees at one point. It was just a crazy high-paced fight. I mean, he nearly finished Hamzat. In a way, he had him hurt. I think that's what he needs to try to do against Morales here because, I mean, you mentioned the wrestling of Morales. I don't know if he's going to be able to take him down. The more I think about it, I really feel like he needs to try to go balls to the wall and knock him out early. His KO props are crazy for first round KO is 65-1. KO round 2 is 80-1. Probably not. I mean, there's a reason why it's 65 and 80-1. But for Blue Bar, that's worth a sprinkle. That's a $5 sprinkle and something to get excited about. That's what I'm going to do in this fight. I do think he could win one round. I also liked his plus 9.5 was plus 205, which I thought was a decent number. Basically he would need to win one round. If he loses 49-46, loses 4 rounds to 1, he still covers that plus 9.5. I think he's veteran enough that he could find a way to win at least one round if he doesn't get KO'd. But unfortunately, I have to give an official pick, and it is going to be Morales by KO at -175. Okay, let's get into the picks. We mentioned we had a rough week last week. Could have broke even had 5 seconds struck the clock a little bit early in that BSD fight. Overall, we're still up almost just under 10 units through 6 cards. This is our 7th card. I like the picks we have for this week, so let's let's jump right into it. We have a 3-unit play on Tisha Pennington money line parlayed with Yadier Del Villa at minus 500. It comes to minus 172 when you put them together. We've had good success with our 3-unit plays. Knock on wood. I don't think we've lost a 3-unit play yet. Oh, wait. We did lose on Nikita Krylov, which, by the way, he has another fight lined up, baby. He's going to be back better than ever. But let's focus on this week. We have Tisha Pennington money line with Yadier Davila money line. I talked about I don't think Tisha is going to get taken down in this fight. I think she has the better hands. I think she has better cardio. I don't see a path of her losing this fight. I really like her in this spot. And we talked about Yadier Davila. Looked really good everywhere in his fight on the Dana White Contender Series. Threw everything in the kitchen sink at his opponent. The guy just would not quit. Showed good cardio, having an exhausting pace, trying to put the guy away and never gave up. With a comeback on Connor Matthes, who we just don't think is UFC level. He's been KO'd in back-to-back fights, has gotten out grappled by a grappler. I like Davila by knockout. I mentioned that, but we want to play it safe with our 3-unit play. So we're going to go Tisha money line with Yadier Davila money line. Comes to minus 172, 3 units to give you back just over 1.25 unit on the return. Next, our 2-unit play is going to be Jared Gordon money line at minus 120. We talked pretty in depth about why we like Gordon. We think he's a significantly better striker, is going to be doing way more damage against a low volume grappler who doesn't even have great takedowns, doesn't have great entries. Yeah, I mean that's just what that's what it comes down to here. Gordon has good defensive grappling and takedown defense. We don't think Moises is going to be able to take him down and keep him down. Excuse me. Gordon is going to be doing way more damage. If this fight stays standing, it won't be close. 2 units on Jared Gordon money line at minus 120. And lastly, we have 1 unit on under 2.5 rounds in that Yadier Davila fight. Under 2.5 rounds is minus 105. We do think he's going to finish Connor Matthes. Just for whatever reason, if Matthes were to find some sort of submission or Yadier finds some sort of submission, we're going to play it a little bit safer on the under 2.5 rounds at minus 105. And then let's jump into individual plays. We each get 3 units to play with. Red Ray, how are you giving out your 3 units this week?
I'm going to have 4 plays this week. We'll start with 1 unit on Lisboa money line. I just think she's the more dangerous striker here, and I think she can keep it standing. It's plus 142. I think Santos is just minus 170 on a girl. Then you got to hope that she gets the fight to the ground against a girl that hasn't shown, or that, it's going to start on the feet. She's just going to be the much better striker there, and I think she can stay safe on the ground. So I got 1 unit there. Got 1 unit on Camilo by KO. Like I said, I don't think Green has the greatest chin on the planet. Camilo, I think, hits hard. He's knocked down his last 2 opponents multitude of times, at least 5 times. He had multiple KOs before that at 145. Green's been dropped in his last 4 fights, I believed. Cutting down to 155 I don't think that's going to help his chin out at all. So we're going to go Camilo by KO there, 1 unit plus 140. Then I got 2 sprinkles here. I'm going to go half unit on both of them. Julian Erosa by sub. I think Melk's going to try to take the fight to the ground at some point. Erosa, he's got multiple wins by submission, just has long, skinny arms. He just slides it underneath there. He just got his black belt, so he might even be more pumped to show that off. I think if he gets on top, he could possibly get on top of Costa here and get a submission there. And I think it could happen at any time during the fight. So plus 400, I think that's just value against a guy who's been subbed before. So And then I'm going to throw another half unit on Denise Gomes by sub. It's plus 500. I think her path to victory, if she wants to make it easy, is to take Elise Reed down. She has a submission attempt in both of her last 2 fights, so she's obviously been working on her ground game. And Elise Reed has been submitted multiple times before. I think she's a blue belt in jiu-jitsu on the ground, so I don't think she has anything for Gomes. So this could be a stand-up affair, but if Gomes wants to show high fight IQ and just make it an easy night for herself, I think she just takes her down and subs her. So those are my plays.
Okay. Blue Bart, he's gonna have a big week this week. He's gonna have a comeback. We got a little too cute last week. We're gonna get a little more straightforward with the picks this week. And Red Bray, heads up, I just made a little bit of a change here, but I'm gonna do a half unit on Dustin Stoltzfus. I talked about, I think he's gonna be able to out grapple Ruziboev. I think he's going to be the bigger, stronger guy. We saw Ruziboev struggle with the takedown defense against Buckley, couldn't get back up. And I think that Stoltzfus is going to be able to take him down and control him. We saw improved stand up from Stoltzfus in his last fight. I think plus 240 is a great number on a guy who I think is going to win the fight. I'm going to do a half unit on him. I'm going to do another half unit on Julian Erosa money line. I read Ray likes him by submission. We talked a lot about it. I think he is the better striker. I think he is the better grappler. He's 14-0 by submission. He's coming off of 3 first-round finishes. I'm just not sold on Mel Costa. I think guys are fighting into his fight. I think that Erosa is going to fight his fight. I think he's going to keep it striking. I think he's going to outstrike Costa. The only way we've seen Julian Erosa lose fights is when he gets TKO'd. I don't think that Costa has that ability. And so I like Juicy J. I'm going to do a half unit on him at plus 145. I talked a lot about Super Sadiq Yusuff. I think this is a step down, a competition for him. I think he's the better striker. I think he is the better grappler. I think he's the better fighter. He's still only 31 years old. I don't think he's chinny. I think that's getting that narrative is being overhyped a little bit. And I think Marion Santos is still very raw. He's still very young. I haven't been super impressed. I thought he lost his last fight. This is a huge step up in competition for him. And again, I just think that people are underrating Sadiq because he hasn't fought in 2 years. But I think he's going to remind everyone he's still that guy. He's still elite. There's a reason why he is 7-3 in the UFC. There's a reason why he was getting main event spots. He is Super Sadiq. I'm doing 1 unit on his money line at plus 115. And then lastly, this last pick is a little not sexy when you look at it, but I love Bellato KO. I mentioned that. I am doing Bellato KO with under 9.5 minutes. It came to exactly plus 100. I'm going to do 1 unit on that. I was going to do Bellato by first round KO, but his 2 KOs in the UFC are in round 2. I don't want to have to sweat the first round as much. I like the plus 100 number at Bellato KO under 9.5 minutes. Basically, fight to not start round 2. 1 unit to win 1 unit. 4 picks along with Red Ray. So again, we're sticking with the 12 units overall. We have 6 units in the Tisha money line, Yadir money line, 3 units there, 2 units on Gordon money line, and then 1 unit on the under 2.5 in the Davila fight. I feel like every card, I always say, I think this is a little bit underrated card. I'm not going to say that this week. This card isn't the most exciting, but there are some names in here. There are some fights in here that I am excited about. I'm looking forward to it. Looking ahead to next week. We're actually off next week after this week because of Memorial Day weekend. So we will be back in 2 weeks with UFC Fight Night, Vegas 107. Aaron Blanchfield taking on Macy Barber. And then in a few weeks after that, we've got the UFC 316 title fight between Merab and Sean O'Malley. So until then, I hope everyone has a happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for listening. As always, we are always recapping our picks and the fights on x.com/R&B fight picks. So please give us a follow there. Please subscribe. Please like. Thanks for listening, and good luck.